Imagine a clash of titans, two of history's most legendary and fearsome warriors, each leading an army forged in hardship and discipline. On one side, the brilliant military strategist from southern Africa, Shaka Zulu, at the head of 50,000 disciplined Impi warriors. On the other, the Thracian gladiator who shook the Roman Republic to its core, Spartacus, leading a massive rebellion of former slaves and gladiators, who would win in a hypothetical showdown. Today, we're re-diving deep into this epic what-if scenario, Shaka Zulu SMP versus Spartacus' Gladiator Army. To understand this matchup, we first need to understand the men themselves. Shaka, born in the late 18th century, was an illegitimate son who rose from obscurity to become the king of the Zulu people. He wasn't just a warrior, he was a revolutionary. Shaka completely reformed the Zulu military, introducing new weapons, new tactics, and a level of discipline that was unheard of in the region. He transformed a small tribe into a powerful, expansionist empire through sheer military genius and ruthless efficiency. His reign, known as the Mephican or the Crushing, forever changed the landscape of southern Africa. Then there's Spartacus. His early life is shrouded in mystery, but we know he was a Thracian, likely a soldier, who was captured and sold into slavery to become a gladiator in Capua, Italy. Around 73 BC, life as a gladiator was brutal and often short, but it turned men into deadly killing machines. Spartacus wasn't content with this fate. He sparked a rebellion with about 70 other gladiators, a small flame that would soon engulf the Italian peninsula. His army swelled with tens of thousands of escaped slaves, all yearning for freedom and ready to fight and die for it. For 2 years, Spartacus and his followers defied the might of Rome, defeating several consular armies sent to crush them. Now, let's look at the armies they commanded. Shaka's force, the Impi, was a professional, standing army of 50,000 warriors. These men were soldiers from a young age, organized into regiments, or amabutho, based on age. Their lives were dedicated to warfare. Discipline was absolute. Retreat was punishable by death, not just for the individual, but sometimes for their entire unit. This created an army with unbreakable morale and a terrifying will to win. They were a cohesive, well-drilled fighting force that moved as one. Spartacus's army was a different beast altogether. While it started with a core of highly trained gladiators, it grew into a massive, diverse coalition of up to 120,000 people. This included men, women, and children. The fighting force itself was a mix of experienced gladiators, former soldiers from various regions, and a vast majority of escaped slaves with little to no formal military training. Their motivation was powerful, the fight for freedom, but their discipline and cohesion were inconsistent. The army was often plagued by internal divisions, with different factions wanting to do different things, which ultimately contributed to their downfall. So, in our scenario, let's standardize the fighting force to 50,000 of Spartacus's best combatants to match the Imp. Next, the all-important gear and weaponry. The Zulu Impi were masters of close-quarters combat. Shaka revolutionized their equipment. He replaced the long, flimsy throwing spear with a short, broad-bladed stabbing spear called the Ikwa, named after the sound it made when being pulled from a body. This forced his warriors to close with the enemy and engage in brutal, decisive hand-to-hand fighting. For defense, they carried a large cowhide shield called the Ist. This shield was tall enough to protect most of the body and was also used offensively to hook an opponent's shield and create an opening. The Impi fought barefoot for better speed and grip on the terrain. They were a fast, light infantry, designed for shock and awe. Spartacus's army was much more varied in its equipment. The core gladiators would have had high-quality gear, possibly plundered Roman armor like helmets, greaves, and chest plates, and weapons like the gladius short sword and the scutum shield. However, the vast majority of his army would have been equipped with whatever they could find or forge. This meant agricultural tools turned into weapons, like scythes and pitchforks, alongside captured Roman equipment. This lack of standardization would be a significant disadvantage. While a Roman-equipped gladiator was a formidable opponent, many in Spartacus's army would be underprotected compared to the uniform shield wall of the Impi. Now for the most critical factor, tactics and strategy. This is where Shaka Zulu truly shines. He is famous for his horns of the buffalo or bullhorn formation, the Impi Yobath Ango. This tactic was brilliantly simple, yet devastatingly effective. The Zulu army would be divided into 3 parts. The main force, the chest, would engage the enemy head-on, pinning them in place. Simultaneously, two flanking horns would race out to encircle the enemy, attacking them from the sides and rear. A fourth group, the loins, was held in reserve, ready to be deployed wherever needed or to exploit a breakthrough. This formation required incredible speed, coordination, and discipline, all of which the Impi had in abundance. Spartacus was also a brilliant tactician, but his genius was more in the realm of guerrilla warfare and improvisation. He was a master of using the terrain to his advantage and pulling off audacious, unexpected maneuvers. Remember when he and his men were trapped on Mount Vesuvius by a Roman force? They rappelled down cliffs using vines and attacked the Romans from the rear, achieving a stunning victory. Spartacus was an expert at hit-and-run attacks, ambushes, and exploiting Roman arrogance. However, when forced into a large-scale, pitched battle on open ground, his less disciplined and poorly equipped troops were at a significant disadvantage against organized legions, as seen in his final defeat by Crassus. So let's set the stage. A large, open plain, the kind of terrain where tactical formations are key. 50,000 Zulu Impi on one side, 50,000 of Spartacus's best fighters on the other. The battle begins. The Zulu Impi advance, not in a chaotic charge, but in a disciplined rhythmic jog. Their feet stamping the earth, chanting war songs to build morale and intimidate their foe. Spartacus sees them coming. His experienced gladiators and former soldiers form a solid line at the front, ready to absorb the charge. The less experienced rebels are behind them. The chest of the Zulu army smashes into Spartacus's front line. The sound is deafening, the clang of Iqua against Roman-style shields and makeshift armor. The gladiators at the front are deadly. Their short swords are effective in the press, and they are masters of individual combat. They hold their ground against the initial shock, but while the center is locked in a desperate struggle, the Zulu horns are on the move. These are the fastest warriors, running barefoot with incredible speed and stamina. They swing wide, outflanking Spartacus's line. Spartacus and his lieutenants would see this happening. They're not fools. They would try to extend their own lines or send forces to counter the flanking maneuver. But this is where the difference in discipline becomes critical. Trying to redeploy a mixed army of rebels in the heat of battle is chaotic. Orders get confused. Some units might be reluctant to move, fearing it would weaken their part of the line. The Impi, on the other hand, move like a well-oiled machine. They have drilled this formation countless times. The horns crash into the flanks of Spartacus's army. Panic begins to set in. The rebels on the wings are not the hardened gladiators from the center. They are overwhelmed by the ferocity of the Zulu attack. The Impi hook their shields, pull them aside, and thrust with their deadly ikiwas. The encirclement is completed. Now, Spartacus's army is trapped, being attacked from the front and both sides. The psychological pressure is immense. This is the moment Shaka would commit his reserves. The loins, this fresh wave of elite warriors, would charge into the weakest point of the encircled army, shattering their morale and breaking their formation completely. The battle would turn into a rout. Individual gladiators might fight on with incredible bravery, taking down many Zulus, but as an organized force, the rebellion would be broken. The Impi are trained to be merciless in victory, to annihilate the enemy and ensure they cannot fight again. So, who wins? While Spartacus is a legendary leader and his core fighters are among the most skilled individual combatants in history, the victory in this large-scale battle almost certainly goes to Shaka Zulu. War is more than just individual fighting skill. It's about discipline, cohesion, strategy, and logistics. Shaka's army was superior in almost all of these aspects. The Impi were a professional military force with standardized equipment and revolutionary tactics, led by one of history's greatest military innovators. Spartacus's army was a brave but disparate coalition whose greatest strengths were in guerrilla warfare and rebellion, not in a conventional pitched battle against a force as disciplined as the Zulu Impi. The genius of Shaka was in creating a system that could consistently win battles through superior organization. The genius of Spartacus was in inspiring a desperate hope for freedom and repeatedly outsmarting a superpower through cunning and audacity. In a face-to-face showdown of armies, the system would likely triumph over the inspiration. It's a fascinating matchup, but the crushing, disciplined power of the Zulu war machine would likely overwhelm the fiery but fractured army of the great gladiator. What do you think? Who would you bet on in this epic clash? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more epic historical battles.